This is the Analysing Anfield podcast on the Blood Red channel, bringing you the best tactical and statistical analysis of Liverpool FC.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of Analysing Anfield. I am Josh Williams, host, and I'm joined by David Hughes, supposed to co-host. How are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate. I'm sad I'm sitting indoors because it looks very warm outside, but except for that, I'm okay.
Yeah, still self-isolating, still looking after yourself and that.
Yeah, we all are, aren't we?
I mean, I'm still trying to work in the garden when I can, especially today. But it's
that's
a bit
the
more
problem. I was explaining to our producer guy that I'm in an apartment, and most of the year we're quite lucky because our apartment's a little bit bigger, the living room. So where I'm sitting now is like an extension coming out. And it's like an aesthetic thing for the building. So there's only two of the apartments that have this. And then everybody else just has a balcony. So most of the time it's good because you have more living room space. But yeah, when it's times like these, unprecedented times, I'd pay good money to be on a balcony right now just to get some proper fresh air. But yeah.
I mean, you mentioned there that it's unprecedented times. It's unprecedented times in the podcast world as well. Last week we did a Q&A, but we can't do a Q&A every single week. So still trying to deliver content. So this week we're going to see what it's like to address an old match, classic match, one that's kind of gone down in Liverpool's history, I suppose, one that'll be remembered. We did put it out there to the public to send in the suggestions, and we might go along with that another week, depending on how they go. But I think one of the matches that got a decent amount of votes was actually Liverpool 4-0 over Barcelona, which we've already analysed at the end of last season. So anyone wanting to see that, just rewind a few months and you'll get it there in the archives. But we're gonna tackle a match that I've already reviewed last week for the Liverpool Echo. And you watched it last night, didn't you? Dave?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
We've gone down the route. One of the most memorable for me in terms of how crazy the match was. Liverpool 5, Arsenal 1. The 2013-14 season when we finished agonisingly second under Brendan Rodgers. But I think it's got a good few storylines in it. And I'm sure you'll agree, Dave, it was an absolute crazy, certainly first 20-minute period. Yeah,
ludicrous. One thing that when I was kind of, prior to watching that game, just doing a little bit of research on the game was, it's probably worth pointing out to people as well, that like Arsenal were going for the title then, like I think they may have been top going into the game or second and could go top if they got a victory. So it wasn't like the kind of Arsenal that we've become accustomed to over the last couple of years. They were really... Yeah. Oh, they were top. There you go. They were a really good side. They looked like they could finally end their wait for a title. I think it was about maybe 10 years or so then. So yeah, it was like a real top game between two top sides, and it beforehand it would have been really difficult, I suppose, to try and pick and win it at the time. Obviously, it didn't pan out like that.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly shouldn't have been as comfortable as it was. But we're going to get into it anyway. We'll address... We won't go through each goal, but we'll address various talking points in the match, storylines around it, and basically more than ever have, I suppose, what is just a chat about the match. If we go off on a tangent, it's fine this week, I suppose. We've got quite a vague agenda, so it could be a 20-minute pod, could be a... Well, I was going to say it could be a 4-hour pod, but that's a little bit long, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, that's what you're thinking, mate. No, what I will say just quickly just on that point was that I'm pretty sure the top four was separated by points, and this was in February, which is, it's mad to think about that now, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking this was in February, and Arsenal were top, and when it did come to Liverpool actually getting edged out by City, Chelsea were in the mix. Arsenal sort of completely fell off it by that point.
Yeah,
I can't quite remember what happened.
I think this might have been the catalyst for it,
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. but they were in contention for the large majority of the season. I don't know if they suffered an injury or whatever. Maybe Guy had not Arsenal fan producer, but he's they completely fell off by the looks of it. But I think the first talking point, one of the first things that took my attention was Liverpool's style of play on the day. Because when Brendan Rodgers got the job, very philosophical and a little bit David Brent, and he went down the route of ball possession, and he'd been to see Ajax and things like that, and he'd spent time with Swansea, keeping the ball and things. So it wasn't a Rodgers style of play really for me, but it certainly worked. I mean, it was very vertical. I thought very aggressive, very direct, and if I'm being honest, almost in the mould of Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, it felt like it was quite bizarre after watching so much of this current Liverpool side to see a Liverpool side who were almost sitting in like a mid-block, happy to forfeit possession of the ball, let Arsenal kind of control proceedings a little bit in terms of possession. But then, as you said, as soon as the ball was won back or in the transitions, it was just bam, really, really, really quick balls forward. Say it was Gerrard picking it up. It was very direct. It wasn't back to a centre back to regain possession. It was all get the ball forward as quick as possible to the kind of lethal forward line that Liverpool had on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of if you were to put that match on next weekend, and every team was to play in shadows, I think you'd probably look at that and think that's Liverpool. Albeit a slightly deeper line of engagements, as you said, a bit of a mid-block. But the actual use of the ball, how they attacked, it was very, very similar, I thought, certainly to the early years under Klopp. Maybe a bit more now, he's a bit more controlling, isn't he? Liverpool a bit more dominating the possession. But
that's what the point I was going to add. Yeah, I think that's all I was going to add. Yeah, maybe the early years, obviously now Liverpool have a more controlling game. The side want to engage with them really anywhere up the pitch, but certainly those first few years it was a kind of a Klopp performance, I guess. But Liverpool that season had loads of success play like that, didn't he? I remember they did it against Everton in the 4-0 game where it was just almost. I don't know if it was always a case of forfeiting possession, but it was certainly. There was no qualms with letting the opponents hold and then just hitting them really fast on the counter because they had such a lethal front line.
Yeah, we will get to the front line because it was quite ridiculous. But you just mentioned Liverpool forfeiting possession and things like that. I have got the numbers here in terms of the basics at least. We sadly don't have expected goals going back this far. Maybe some providers do, but we don't at the minute. But Liverpool only had 43% possession on the day, but they had 22 shots. Arsenal had 57% possession, half the amount of shots with 11, and Liverpool also had double the amount on target with 12. Arsenal found the target 6 times, so it was very much, I thought, like a transition-based approach almost. Before the real transition game hit European football, really. I think the transition game hit European football when maybe when Bayern Munich really demolished Barcelona and when Borussia Dortmund reached the Champions League final. I think around that. So I think it was happening about now, but it was still a very new thing.
Yeah, and I suppose if you look back now, you think possible opponent to face in that situation is a team like Arsenal, whose philosophy is very clear and they won't adjust. Like I was watching the game, and this was when they were 2-0 down, 2 or 3-0 down, and they're winning, free kicks in Liverpool's half. And rather than maybe thinking, right, let's go a little bit more direct here, try and get a goal, they're trying to play, restart it with a 5-yard pass backwards or sideways, and it just seemed really bizarre to watch. And I suppose Liverpool and Rodgers knew how kind of they stick to their one philosophy, and therefore they knew the approach to beat it, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that actually, because I'll give our listeners a little sneak peek here if it's not out by this point. But because of the extra time that we've had lately to spend on writing, I've teamed up with the gaming writer at Reach to create Liverpool's 4-3-3 in Football Manager. That'll be going up on the Echo website in the next few days. So look out for that one if you're into FM20. But just on that, we've been speculating for other teams, other styles of play that we could recreate in Football Manager. And the gaming writer Nathan mentioned Wenger's Arsenal maybe. And I said, well, yeah, but once you lose the ball, there's no instructions at all. There's not a single instruction you can really give them, because Arsenal are very much a possession-based team. And in transition and in defence, it was just kind of, I don't know, there was no real team behaviour, was there? It was just kind of each individual just defends almost. And I've seen quotes in the past of, like, I think it was Gilberto Silva speaking about how, certainly without the ball and in terms of covering positions, Arsenal's players would just do it in real time on the pitch without ever really playing it behind the scenes. But that was interesting.
Yeah, it felt with the ball there was only really a plan A. They didn't really know how to adjust into. They didn't have like a plan B or on that. And yeah, I agree. I think in terms of without the ball, it was very basic. And they've been quite critical.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first starting points then from the actual match, obviously with it being the 13-14 season, we can't start with any other player than Luis Suarez. Quick insight, Dave, from an Everton perspective, what was it like seeing seeing Suarez play for Liverpool every single week?
It was easier to appreciate him after he left for Barcelona. I'll probably say that. But you know what? I'm actually having a look at Suarez from that season now. I'm thinking of just doing a little piece on him because you actually touched on it earlier a little bit. I don't feel like players or teams were quantified in the same way they are in the modern game. Like now, it feels like there's been an analytical boom over the last few years. And I think this 13-14 season, a lot of like the mainstream stuff, they really have access to the data. And even though he won PFA Player of the Year that year, I still don't think his greatness in that campaign was ever truly quantified, if I'm being totally honest with you. He scored 31 goals in 33 games, which is just mad. He got 12 assists as well. He was averaging
I'm going to add, he didn't take a single penalty.
Yeah.
Not one.
That's so important to note. Josh, I feel like you of all people, and people listening will also be a bit like, oh my God, that's a lot. But we reference, output is a lot. Do you know how many shots he was taking per 90 that season?
No.
Well, think of like, obviously, what Salah's like 3.8 or something, isn't it? He was he was averaging 5.5 shots per 90.
Wow, that is a lot. That in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Wow.
5.5, and he 45% on target percentage as well.
That is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, like I mean, that's like per 90.
That's like peak Cristiano Ronaldo numbers, I think. Like Lionel Messi and things like that. That's like daft.
But what stands out, obviously, it's not just quantity; the quality was there as well. It's just, honestly, I think had he done that season, maybe last year, then it would have been in 1,000,001 blogs. People would have been making 101 visits about it. But we haven't got the same level of data for that campaign as we have now. As you touched on before, we haven't got expected numbers and things. But certainly at our level, maybe clubs may have had that stuff. But yeah, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's absolutely blown my mind. 5.5 shots per 90. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there that he scored 31 goals, and in all competitions for Liverpool that season, he registered 19 assists as well. So that's 50 scoring contributions. And over the course of his minutes, which I'll add, he very, very got injured. he posted a scoring contribution, so a goal or an assist every 65 minutes for Liverpool that season. For perspective, this season, Sadio Mane is every 101 minutes. Mo Salah, I think, is every 118 minutes. Luis Suarez every 65 minutes in that season. It's insane, honestly insane.
Yeah.
But on that day, he actually played on the right, and Rodgers has since claimed that was because Nacho Monreal was a threat of Arsenal's, and Rodgers thought that if he played Suarez up against him, Suarez would A, be able to cover him defensively, but B, if Suarez was drifting into the space behind Monreal, that'd give Monreal with a decision, basically, do I go and leave Suarez unattended, or do I stay and not support my team in attack? So I thought it was quite a clever little tactical move that, and Rodgers was quite good at that sort of thing. I think he still is, to be honest.
Yeah. It was kind of a good little pressing side when you think about it, because Suarez was really good at pressing, off the ball, and so was Henderson. I'm right in saying Henderson was behind him, wasn't he?
Yeah, Henderson was on the right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that kind of nullified one of their better attacks on the day. And, as we just touched on how great Suarez was, he's so fluid as well. Like, he's really hard to track. Oh, I did find there was a few occasions where he'd be drifting inside and Sturridge would be kind of switching out to the right. I mean, you know what? When you actually just really quickly, when you think about that attack on the day, it had Coutinho, Sterling, Sturridge, Suarez. Like, it was a ludicrous front four, really.
Yeah, it was. I was going to actually get to that, but I just had a little work out there of them Suarez numbers, by the way, just to put into perspective how much 5.5 shots per 90 is. If he was to take 5.5 shots per 90 over a full 38 game season, by the end of the season, he'll have taken about 209 shots on goal, in comparison to a player who takes 3 per 90, with 3 is a solid return, isn't it? If you're taking 3 per 90 over the course of 38 game campaign, you'll take about 114. So that's Suarez taking in and around about 100 shots more over the full season than your average top player, I suppose.
And when you consider that 45% are on target as well.
Yeah, just an absolute massive threat. I've got something on Liverpool's front here. Yeah, the fact that I've just got up the side the actual lineup on the bbc.co.uk, and it's such a shame because they've got the 11 down, and the bottom 5 players, so the attacking players, obviously, you've got Raheem Sterling, Luis Suarez, Daniel Sturridge, Phil Coutinho, and Jordan Henderson. Now, they're all undeniably top players, but then at the opposite end, excluding Steven Gerrard, because obviously a bit of a special case here, he was aging and stuff like that. So, excluding Gerrard, in defence on the day, we had Kolo Touré, Martin Scale, Ali Sissoko, John Flanagan, Simon Mignolet. It's arguably the most top-heavy team I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's something I picked up on, to be honest. In fact, there was a moment where I thought, I'm going to reference this on the pod because this sums up the how top-heavy this side is and the difference between the attack and the defence. Do you remember that corner in around 14th minute? I mean, you will remember because it was phenomenal, where it's clipped out and it's clipped behind Suarez, edge of the box, and he manages to fabricate this unbelievable volley, hits it, it smashes against the post, comes out to Kolo Touré, I think, who's about 8 yards out from goal. All right, it does come on quick, admittedly, but he just puts it wide.
I've said before to plenty of people that's one of the best goals never scored that I've seen in the Premier League. That if that goes in, that just sums up the season, I think, because he scored 2 absolute belters against Norwich from outside the box. He was renowned for scoring the odd little crazy goal that no one even attempt. I think that one would have been right up there with his very best.
I agree.
But just a very quick comparison between Salah's big season at Liverpool and Suarez's last season at Liverpool, because people are inclined to compare that. When I actually looked into the numbers, in terms of goals and assists per minute, I was actually quite surprised at how close they were. I just said before, didn't I, that Suarez was posting a goal or an assist every 65 minutes. Salah every 69. That's quite close, isn't it? And Salah played in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I actually think Salah scored more goals for Liverpool in less games than Suarez, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But Suarez's
Yeah.
first few years, he was very rough around the edges.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to lead on to. It's interesting, isn't it? Because he was still really liked in his first 18 months or so at Anfield, but it seemed a lot of people liked him more for his work ethic and things he did in and around the box than his actual goal return. I think he only scored 15 across his first season and a half in the Premier League. And when you consider that, he went and scored 21 the next season and then 31 thereafter, like it's crazy how he kind of developed into this scoring machine because he didn't really look at it at one point.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know the logic behind Damien Comolli signing Suarez, because I know that there was efforts placed into it, and I know we spoke about it briefly in certain podcasts since. But I think Comolli dedicated the summer budget to Suarez in January because he was that kind, and the intention was to play him alongside Fernando Torres, which would have been, some partnership. But it'd be interesting to see if Comolli did have this kind of player in mind and this ceiling in mind when he invested. I think it was 22.5 million in him from Ajax. But another player that we went on to sign who played alongside him throughout the season, Daniel Sturridge. He played Sturridge. Rodgers on a day played Sturridge through the middle. Another little tactical move from him, because obviously Per Mertesacker is in the centre back, and he's not the quickest. And next to Per Mertesacker is Laurent Koscielny, who's not the quickest either. You've got Sturridge threatening him behind, and you've got Suarez catering for Manuel on the side. But I always think with Sturridge, what could have been really without the injuries. That's probably the common thought.
Yeah, he was a really good finisher. He had loads of pace. He was actually quite skillful as well. I think people forget that, but
He was,
when he stood a player up 1-on-1, you'd always back them really to bypass him. And yeah, obviously another thing, just you've touched on the defenders that they had a really high line as well in that game, Mike. So
yeah, they did. Yeah.
It played perfectly into Sturridge's hands in terms of just putting balls through or over. Who was it? Was it Coutinho's pass for was it the third goal?
Yeah,
that was ridiculous. It was just a perfect kind of, not even always Coutinho, just a perfect Sturridge goal in terms of someone executing a really good ball behind the defensive line for him to run onto, and obviously he always fancied them, and certainly in that season to score.
Yeah, I mean, Sturridge that season, just a really alternative type of striker, I thought, because he didn't really fit any conventional mould, and as you say, he was very, very skillful. The way he used the ball and the way he used his body, and he was. I think the closest player I can possibly compare him to is Aubameyang a few years ago. That kind of striker, I suppose. But he's claimed to think that his idol for a few years was Ronaldinho. He looked up to Ronaldinho a lot, and I think you can tell that looking at Sturridge, just the way he uses the ball and things. But I looked into his numbers actually. He registered the scoring contribution every 78 minutes that season, which again really, really high. That dwarf Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah based on this season at least. But yeah, just a top player, and it's a shame we couldn't have actually kept hold of Suarez for longer and Sturridge for beyond injuries.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we're talking about the forwards, you forget that forward line scored 101 goals, didn't he? Well, obviously the team scored 101 goals, but the main contributors to that was the forwards. Like 101 goals is a lot. Like that's, I think Liverpool scored 80 odd last season, and they were formidable. Over a 38 game season, and 101 just shows how ruthless that attack was.
I always think back. I think it's a shame that the season after, if we'd have kept Suarez and if we'd have kept a fit, healthy version of Sturridge, and maybe just added only a centre back who's top quality and maybe replaced Mignolet in goal, just what that team could have gone on to become. But Liverpool had a fair few of those false dawns before we reached the current level that we've got on the Jurgen Klopp. So going back to the match, first two goals, both Martin Scale. Martin Scale scored a brace inside the first 10-15 minutes, was he? Two goals.
10 minutes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Scale as a defender?
I'll be honest, I didn't think he was anything above average. He was probably still a top 6 defender in his prime, but I don't ever remember being envious of a Liverpool side having a Martin Scale in there. I don't know. Maybe I'm going against the grain there. I'm not sure.
No, I am inclined to agree. I think we've said before that goals tend to influence narratives, don't they, and people's perceptions and stuff. And I think this is a complete guess, but I think that season, he scored about 11. 6 to 11. I don't know why I've got that in my mind, but it was between
nice
6 and 11 goals. Yeah, there's quite a gap there, but it was a lot anyway. Obviously scoring a brace there at Arsenal. I think he scored away to Manchester City at some point. Scored a volley in the penalty box. I'm not sure if that was that season or not, but he scored a few big goals anyway in big games, and I think his mentality was generally quite good, but he was a little bit reckless. And I think just generally a little bit limited in certain areas. But I'd agree with you. Certainly a top 8 defender, probably a top 6 defender, but maybe if you're going for a championship, a little bit short.
Did you find anything interesting about the set pieces?
Only the fact that Gerrard's delivery is ridiculous. Only that.
Yeah. What I did notice though, anything analytical, but I think that first one gets ruled out if it was in 2020 because of I think he's slightly offside.
Oh, was he? Yeah. I thought you were going to say it.
Yeah, very slightly. No, I think it's slightly offside. And another thing as well, actually, I know we're going off down rabbit holes here, but it's more of a chilled episode, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the idea of this episode.
Yeah, I actually thought the first 10 minutes was quite even, I know Liverpool scored 2, but they both come from set pieces. But in terms of the all-round play, I thought, because my memory before watching this game back was Liverpool just blitzing Arsenal within the first 20-25 minutes. And obviously, when you look back on the game of the first half stats, they did daunt them. But the first 10 minutes, when you watch it, it was quite even. And it was those kind of set pieces that really changed the direction of the game to Liverpool's favour. And obviously, thereafter, they just kind of grew into it and started blowing Arsenal away. But it was just interesting how I remember the game compared to how I watched it yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I mentioned in the piece that I did for the Echo covering this game was the fact that Liverpool's game plan to sit in the mid-block, wait for a mistake and then dive forwards, obviously a lot easier to execute when you've got a goal lead or a 2-goal lead. Liverpool got that through set pieces, through Martin Scale, and that allowed the game plan to just be very easily applied, I thought. But you're probably right there, in terms of the early stages.
I've got a question for you, actually, just before we move on, because we were talking about defenders and you were querying where I stood on Skirtle. Where did you stand on Flanagan, John Flanagan? Because people might forget this, but he was Liverpool captain for the odd couple of games in the season after, wasn't he? And he was kind of, I don't know, he become pretty popular pretty quick without maybe necessarily, I don't know, having the skill set.
No, he did. I mean, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast, but because he's probably going to perceive me as very creepy when I say this. But I actually went to school with him. He was in the year above me. So I remember him on the playground and stuff like that, the yard, whatever you want to call it. I always remember him with a football, constantly playing footy. But I didn't really, if I'm being honest, I didn't remember him being amazing. I didn't remember him being the talk of the school in terms of his ability. And, you know, another interesting note, hopefully this lad doesn't listen either, because this is going to be equally creepy. But in my year was Adam Morgan. He was deemed, from what I remember, as the next big thing. And he was known in the school for being a top footballer. He had to get permission off Liverpool to play for my school if he wanted to, and all that stuff. And there was a lot of hype around him. So when it came to actually Flanagan making it and Morgan going a little bit quiet and having to eventually move somewhere, I was a little bit surprised. And I was actually quite surprised at how well Flanagan did, because he's not the strongest, technically very, very, you know, he was kind of like a Carragher technically. Carragher was underrated, I thought, technically. His technical ability was very good, Jamie Carragher, but maybe because he's not kind of like an aesthetically pleasing player, it kind of got overlooked. I think Flanagan technically was quite good close control and stuff like that, but he didn't have many qualities that he could apply on a professional football pitch to get over opponents. But he found a way for that season, and you know, credit to him. But I think he's he's with Gerrard now at Rangers, isn't he?
Yeah. So my opinion of him really is, I felt like he was never that great. That sounds really harsh, but let me give some context to it. He was never that great, but I thought if you look at, as we've already covered on this show, if you look at that side, they were very direct, quick, and I thought he got up really well and joined the attack fast. There was a moment in the first half where he makes an overlapping run and nearly gets a shot off on goal, and I thought that kind of summed up his game as to why he was maybe successful in that regime, but perhaps why he hasn't been successful in latter stages. I think that team just suited him that year, and also I don't think there was that much competition, was there?
No, I can't actually remember offhand why he eventually got a chance. Maybe Glenn Johnson suffered an injury or something like that. Can't remember.
And also he was a Scouser as well. Scouts right back, you know, they tend to.
Yeah, the Scout Cafu, I think he got nicknamed.
Yeah.
But what I will say about him, I think he did, and this is underestimated. I think he did the basics very, very well. Just the traditional old school football instructions of, you know, if you're defending, get tight to your man, be aggressive, let him know you're there. All those standard, like, you dare shouts, if you like. He applied very, very well on a football pitch, and I think Sheffield United, for example, are a team that aren't the most gifted, but they applied themselves in that way very, very well every week. Quite difficult to face. And I think Flanagan was similar in that regard.
Yeah,
but I didn't really expect him to go on to become this Scouse Cafu as I am now with Alexander-Arnold, for example.
Yeah. There's I think that there's different levels between those two.
Yeah, I'd agree there. Yeah. But we'll move on anyway to another Liverpool academy graduate to round off the front three, I suppose, on the day. Raheem Sterling. This was arguably his breakthrough match, really. I think he went on to play a big part in the remaining months of the season for Liverpool, going for that title. Played in a variety of positions under Rodgers, including as a number 10, and actually looked really good. But I remember him in the early days just being not that he still isn't, but being absolutely lightning quick, one of the quickest players over a short distance that I've ever seen, really.
Yeah.
His acceleration to his top speed was just immediate.
Yeah, he could do it in 5 yards, couldn't he? Really, which is quite rare. Obviously, normally players tend to gradually build that over maybe 10, 15. But yeah, 5 yards, boom, and he was so quick and dangerous.
Yeah. It's a shame that he didn't go on to stay at Liverpool, really, because I think what Liverpool had there was, a front three in Suarez, Sturridge and Sterling. All three really, really quick, unpredictable. Can find the back of the net, very dangerous on the ball and stuff like that. But Suarez wants to leave, Sterling wants success, and Sturridge can't stay fit, sadly. So we didn't get enough out of it. And another little player that I think we need to mention, because he was involved in a positional move that received quite a bit of maybe criticism's the word, I'm not sure. Rodgers moving Steven Gerrard to number 6. What was your thoughts on that at the time?
To be honest, and I don't remember really the outrage, but obviously I was out of the bubble, I guess.
I wouldn't really say it was outrage. I think it was more a case of like a lot of people just thinking, why would you prevent him from attacking? He can still do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, see, I pretty much accepted that he couldn't anymore, and almost becoming like a quarterback type player, having to adjust to that role is natural, really. I think player like Gerrard to drive defenses, so naturally you can make use of that, deeper role and almost like a pivot, I guess. And he played well in this game, I thought.
Yeah, he had a really good season, actually. I think if you look into his numbers, okay, he took a fair few pens, but he hit double figures for goals scored and assisted at the age of maybe 32, 33, can't remember, from a number 6 position. So he was, as you say, a back. And at the time, I didn't have much of an issue with the move, the positional switch, because, as you just said, when your legs start to go, it's increasingly difficult to perform a really, really mobile, energetic box-to-box role, which is what Gerrard was famous for years. Yeah. So keep him in the side, let him focus less on mobility and more on dictating, really, with his passing range, which I think has always been underrated.
Yeah, and on the day as well, that the two players who were playing like number 8, obviously Henderson and Coutinho. I mean, that's a pretty solid duo in those positions. So it seems like that's a good use of Gerrard as a 6.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Coutinho as a number 8. I think I'm right in saying that was one of the first few times he really did that. I think before that he was always kind of a number 10 or a left-sided player. But I think, it interestingly offered a bit of an insight into where he'd end up in the future. Because for Liverpool, he ended up kind of playing a 8/wide player kind of role. And for Brazil, I certainly think he played in midfield alongside Neymar. He was on the left out wide. But I must say, I thought Coutinho was magic. I still love Coutinho. I know what happened, but he'll always be a player that I'll be really, really fond of just because of how amazing he was to watch, I thought.
Yeah, no, he was. We were talking, weren't we, about that montage that was doing the rounds on Twitter over the last week or so, whether it was kind of best bits for Liverpool or from a certain campaign. And obviously, I know they're a collection of someone's best bits, so they always look favourable to the player, but you remember how good he was, really, on top of that. And that was just a reminder. He was a fantastic player.
But the thing is, in terms of the highlight reel that you've just mentioned, I think the compilation that caught my attention most was just a compilation of a single match against Newcastle.
Oh, so I might have seen a different one.
Yeah, he played against Newcastle, and it was when Liverpool demolished Newcastle at St James's Park, like 6-0 or something it was, I think. So whatever year that was, 2014 maybe, Coutinho was just running it. He was just, the passing was superb, and his awareness of what's going on around him, and one step ahead of everybody next to him. I think anyone that wants to watch that, just search into Twitter Coutinho Newcastle, and it'll probably just come up at the top as a compilation of his actions today. But I think he's just the top player, Coutinho. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting that it hasn't quite worked out for them since he's left. But I think he arguably went to one of the worst clubs in terms of his kind of role and positioning and how he plays. Then going to Barcelona, who already carry a player really in Messi, which sounds ludicrous to say, but I just mean in terms of his positioning and his role within the side. He's very much left to his own devices, isn't he? And Coutinho could be like that sometimes, and hence why he probably hasn't been a success there.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my theory on that as well. I think Coutinho's the type of player to, if you want to thrive, if you want to, can you hear that?
yeah, it's the joys of this whole working, isn't it? People have to accept what's going on. We're in a world crisis, so you might get the distraction.
Obviously, he's in a crisis as well. What was I saying then? He's completely...
We're talking about Coutinho and his role at Barcelona.
But I think Coutinho's the type of player that if you want him to thrive, you have to let him basically run your attack. He's going to see a lot of the ball, more than anyone in the attacking areas probably, and he's going to shoot more than anyone else as well. If you let him do that, he'll probably win your games on his own. Or you might become a bit reliant on him. And if you're one of those types of players, you have to be really good to get one of those roles at the very top clubs. Messi's obviously got that role at Barca, sees the ball all the time, shoots all the time. But Coutinho, you're not going to get that role in the same side as Messi, especially when Valverde's your man. He's a bit more functional in his thinking. So, shame it didn't work for him. And I think it's going to be. It just doesn't sit right with me that a player as good as him, as good as Coutinho, is going to be basically clamouring for a club in the summer.
Well, it might work to someone's fortune. That I don't know who, I don't know where they end up. But do you think he's the type of player that maybe needs to not be at the truly elite top 0.1% of clubs? Like, he maybe just has to be that tier below. Like, instead of playing for a league winner side, he has to be for maybe a top 2 or 3 side.
Yeah, so I think if he was to play for one of those that you just said, he'd probably be the best player for them. But just in terms of the absolute top sides, Real Madrid, Barcelona, a team like that, you have to kind of give them a license, and you've got to be really, really good to get a license at those clubs. So, yeah, I know what you're saying there. In terms of Arsenal on the day, funnily enough, a certain Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain started for Arsene Wenger.
A fresh-faced Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Fresh-faced and bold version of Alex Oxlade. Mikel Arteta also started, which I thought was quite funny. Have you got any thoughts on why it didn't work for Ox at Arsenal?
Yeah, we've obviously seen quite a lot of him now at Liverpool, and we know the type of player he is, and he's pretty positive on the ball. He's a risk taker, isn't he? And if you kind of think about the comments we've just said about Arsenal, they had this kind of controlling style of dominating the ball that's quite reliant on players just keeping play ticking over, which might be 5 or 10 yard passes and those type of things. And I feel like that would not be his style of play in terms of taking risks, being more direct, carrying the ball would not be as highly thought of in the Arsenal side, or as not be as wanted compared to, say, at Liverpool now, where Klopp obviously values that kind of behaviour. Yeah,
no, that's my perception on it as well. I don't think he was very suited to relatively slow possession-based football. I think he's the type of player that thrives in transition. I think he's a runner. He's a powerful player. He uses his physical traits more than his technical traits. And I think he's always had kind of a desire to press. I remember the clip away at Bayern Munich, I think it was, for Arsenal. Do you remember it? And he presses Bayern Munich defence. No one follows him. and he turns round and pulls a stop like a 10-year-old. Because he's dying to kind of be a bit proactive without the ball, but nobody followed him.
Go and get the ball.
Yeah. Straight away, he thought to himself, he's a club player. But in addition, have you actually checked out his bench on the day?
No, I haven't. I know Fabianski was on there, and there's a few. I glanced at it, but I couldn't remember off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, well, Fabianski was on there, which I thought was interesting because I think he'd maybe not. I don't know. Would you start Fabianski over Bernd Leno? I know you rate Fabianski, we all do, don't we? But
yeah, I you know what? Oh, that's a tough question because
Fabianski.
Yeah, but Fabianski didn't look phenomenal. I think for the first year or two after his move, it's only in recent times he seemed to kind of developed as a top keeper for me. I don't know. That's a really good question, that Josh. I don't know who would I have because I know he gets a little bit of stick, but I do think Leno was actually a decent keeper.
He's better with his feet. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that. Maybe Fabianski's a better, I don't know, traditional keeper, but I'd probably be inclined to go for Leno given the state of the modern game.
Yeah. The one other player bench that I thought was interesting, Serge Gnabry.
Yeah, no, I did see this. Oh, yeah, I meant to mention it. Yeah, he's on. Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? When you've seen how he's turned out to be.
Yeah, he's turned into an absolute top player. To the extent that he'd fit in seamlessly to Liverpool's side, I think.
Yeah, but then once again, is he like what we've just been saying about Oxlade-Chamberlain there, and that he potentially, there's an obvious reason why he wasn't a success at Arsenal because of the way the player he is.
Yeah, I mean, this was 6 years ago now. He's 24 now, so he will have been 18 on this day. So we obviously weren't particularly ready back then. But I think it's just quite strange that someone as wise as Arsene Wenger didn't really spot player in there. Well, I don't know. I suppose he didn't. Because he sanctioned his sale, but at the same time, I suppose he had him on the bench at age 18. But I don't know. Maybe he's surprised that he reached this level.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's hard to call that one. Sometimes it's. I don't know. I can't really explain it. Is it he knows that the player wouldn't have fitted in with the philosophy at the club, or I don't know, bizarre. But I mean, you must kicking themselves a little bit over that one.
Yeah, I think overall, the actual match, the way the match played out, Liverpool's 5 goals, I think they kind of highlighted Wenger's decline actually for me. I think Wenger was visionary, and I still think he is, but he always placed an emphasis on creative freedom, possession type football, with less of an emphasis placed on what happens when the ball is lost. And I think gradually as football's evolved, those aspects have become increasingly important, and Wenger just got, I suppose, kind of shown up in the big matches because the likes of Guardiola pays a lot of attention to this sort of thing. And I think Guardiola played Wenger twice in the space of a week in Wenger's final season, I think. And City won 3-0 both times. And both matches were just a non-contest. And it was kind of like watching Wenger against an old school manager 20 years ago. Watching Guardiola against Wenger now, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. I think at that level, it's really hard for the elite to maintain being an elite coach for a prolonged period. I mean, Arsene Wenger did do it to an extent, let's be clear, but we're just talking about the very latter stages now, the last few years of his time at Arsenal. And I think he struggles. And there's not many coaches who've been able to maintain that kind of ability to reinvent and kind of go with the times. You know, you say Ferguson did it, but even I thought Ferguson retired at a very wise age because just those the last couple of years and a few of the European ties, United got found out. And I think if Ferguson was 5 years younger and lasted another 5 years on top of that 2013 campaign, I think we would have saw ahead. You know, it might sound controversial, but I think we would have saw a similar kind of demise.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I think he's quite underrated, Ferguson, in terms of how on the ball he actually is, isn't he? And I think he retired with the awareness that, I don't know, football's become maybe a bit of a different game compared to when he actually started. I think he was always very good at keeping on top of, you know, getting another assistant in every few years who was on top of the new aspects of the game. But I think he'd be facing Guardiola's team in the Champions League and getting completely, well, I mean, outplayed, but I mean, the majority would. But and facing Mourinho as well a few times, and seeing the rise of Manchester City, I think it just starts. I think he maybe started to think to himself, you know, this is getting away from here. To retain my legacy, maybe I have to call it a day.
Yeah, as you said, he's a very wise man. But I tell you what, it'll be interesting if people want to see a modern day version of this. It'll be interesting to see how Mourinho copes over the next 12 months, 18 months, and whether, because I think he's just on the edge of that cliff now, and it'll be interesting to see whether he can kind of maintain at this level or kind of drop off. Because that's an interesting one now, because it doesn't look great at Spurs.
Yeah. Just before we round up then, out of the 5 goals, do you have a favourite?
Yeah, it's got to be the Sturridge one for me, like the through ball by Coutinho and the finish.
Yeah, I was thinking the other one. I was thinking the one when Henderson pressures Ozil to the extent that Ozil falls over, and then Henderson
he tries to get a foul.
Yeah, Henderson counter-attacks, gives the ball to Suarez, and Suarez puts it on a plate for Sterling and Sturridge, but Sterling gets there first.
Yeah,
I think
that was a ridiculous ball.
Yeah, but I think that goal epitomised the game plan, really.
What was the 5th goal? I can't remember that.
The 5th goal, a ball over the top. Sterling gets his foot onto it. Arsenal play offside. And Sterling runs through, hits the ball right at Chesney. It comes right back to him, and he hits it again, and it goes in.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the 5th one.
No, you're right. I remember now, because it's obviously the only one that was in at the Cop end, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the game was already virtually won by that point.
Yeah.
So unless you've got anything to add, Dave, I think we'll round up there. Let us know.
I'm just laughing to myself. Just quickly, I'm just laughing to myself. That guy, our producer, is a big Arsenal fan, and he's going to have to listen and watch all this back.
Yeah. To add to his
Sorry, mate.
To add to his happiness of self-quarantine. So anyway, let us know what you think of this episode. This was obviously a bit of an alternative one, but we've got to find ways of creating this sort of content. So let us know what it was like, and if you've got any other matches that you want us to tackle that we haven't previously tackled inside the past year, then give us a shout. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Cheers, mate.
And we will see you next week.